Based on a brand new report by Generation Squeeze, if you want to buy a house in Ontario and you don't already own one, you've got two options. You can save up for 20 years, or you can hope that the market falls $500,000 in price and you'll have a home. So which one do you want to choose? We've realized by this point, right, that if you want to get attention in anything in life, you just have to be the loudest in the room. So when Generation Squeeze put out their report, which makes a lot of valid points, by the way, I'm not against them in any way, they have to come out with a headline that says home prices have to drop $500,000 for millennials to be able to afford real estate. I'm going to go over a little bit of this report with you today, and we're going to dig into it and then show you where there's a little bit of gap here and what I'd want you to know if you don't already own a home, or let's say you're a parent watching this and you're thinking to yourself, how's my kid ever going to afford real estate? We'll go over what the actual real options are. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Tom Storey. I run a real estate team here in the city of Toronto, and thank you for being here. If you haven't already joined our community, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to book an appointment with me, first link in the description, buyer consultation, seller consultation, or just a discovery call to chat about the market. So I'm going to share this article with you in a second, but just before that, I want to give you kind of some perspective here. So these sensationalized headlines come out a lot. You know, there was another one that said you had to make like $322,000 to buy the average property in Toronto. That article came out when the market was at its peak, where the average sale price was like $1.3 million, saying that if you want to buy that and you don't already own real estate, that's the amount of income you would need to have. And the math is not lying. These aren't made up lies. But first-time home buyers aren't buying the average sale price property. What they're buying is a first-time home, which is usually a condo or an entry-level townhouse. So frankly, a lot of these articles are a bunch of crap, but they have to use these headlines to get you to actually click on them. And look, it's working. I'm making a video on this, so obviously their messaging is getting in front of people. Okay, so let's jump right into it. We're going to go right to the article here. Now, this is from CTV, and it says Ontario millennials need to save for 20 years for down payment on a home. A new report shows that home prices need to drop by more than $500,000 for millennials to be able to afford a home. Generation Squeeze, a charitable organization fighting for generational fairness in the country, recently released a 56-page report. By the way, this report here I will put in the bio of this video if you want to check it out, which looks at the disparity between home prices and earnings across the country. Okay, so before we go any further in this CTV article that's going over a few quotes from the report, we have to get something very clear. It has been obvious that if the only aspect of home prices that made home prices rise was incomes rising at the same time, home prices wouldn't have done what they've done the last, 20, 30 years. So there's obviously other variables. So what are those other variables? Now, the big one, which is the big elephant in the room that everyone knows is happening but doesn't really talk about that much, is like family helps people. So I see it all the time with our clients. It's just the truth. Most of our first-time home buyers got help from family. So that's number one. Then you have the ultra-low interest rates. As they've been rising, you've seen a bit of a crunch with sales slowing down, but interest rates are playing a factor. And immigration and population growth, which is causing the supply-demand issue that we've seen basically for the last 20 years. Here's my question for you in the comments. What do you think is more realistic to happen? Home prices fall $500,000, or salaries go up enough to actually make up the delta to afford the average property? So what they're saying is that the study analyzes what Canada's primary goal should be for home prices, looking at the gap between earning and average home prices from 1976 until 2021, which was the last year available for information from the Canadian Real Estate Association. So here's some of the main quotes they put in there. The number of years of work required to save for a 20% down payment on the average priced home has growing alarming ways in many regions. Across Ontario, the average home prices were just shy of $900,000. Meanwhile, average incomes in Ontario for the ages of 25 to 34, because this report's really going after millennials that don't already own homes, have nearly stayed the same for decades, lingering the average of roughly $50,000 a year, according to Statistics Canada. And here's my problem when they make these type of headlines, is that the first-time home buyer does not buy a $900,000 property normally. Like maybe a very, very small percentage actually does. But for the most part, they're buying $400,000, $500,000, and $600,000 properties. Most of the things that they're saying are only applying to Ontario, okay? And although I am born and raised in Toronto and I love this city, you don't have to live here. So let's say just for fun, right? Let's say home prices drop $500,000, and that would put the average sale price about $550,000. What I want to show you right now is if you're willing to live in places other than Ontario in Canada, here's what your options look like. Okay, so what I've done here is gone to realtor.ca. Okay, this is public information available to any of you right now. You can do this search on your own. So I'm going to do a search. I'm going to put the max price, and let's go to $550,000. Now, building type, I'm actually just going to choose house. So this isn't even going to be condos, okay? So this is freehold real estate, and we're going to click search and see what comes up. All right, so first of all, if you're willing to go in Canada, but you don't have to be Ontario, but there still is 45 options in Ontario, by the way, mostly probably Thunder Bay. Yeah, that makes sense. You have 34,000 current properties listed for sale in Canada that you could buy under $550,000. Now, if we zoom in a little bit, what you're going to see is Alberta right here with Edmonton and Calgary. There's over 1,300 available in Calgary. There's 2,800 available in Edmonton. Saskatoon, you got 500. Regina, you got 981. There are options all across this country to buy real estate. Now, British Columbia, yeah, not as many in British Columbia or Ontario, but there's many other places you could theoretically move to if you want to buy a house for $500,000 in Canada. I'm actually not making this video at all to give Generation Squeeze any flack. They did a really good job with their marketing to get people to actually talk about this. And obviously affordability is being a big issue across this country. And it's not just, right? It's not just Toronto and Vancouver anymore. Markets in the last 2 years exploded in price. And some of them are coming back down to earth right now. But you think, right, for the next generation of buyers, how are they going to get real estate unless their parents help them in some way? I'd love to know your thoughts. Thanks so much for watching this video. Check out one of our other videos while you're at it. Have an amazing day. And remember, home is where your story begins. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. You can learn more about the Storey Team at storeyteam.ca. We also have a weekly podcast called The Tom Storey Show, with new episodes each Sunday. If you'd like to book a call directly with Tom, you can do that via the first link in the description.